Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalrin, and in today's video, I'll be making a video about Subtlety rogues and how to line up damage in arenas. And by arenas, I mean 2v2s and 3v3 arenas, where Subtlety plays more of a support role, where normally you will play with a mage and a druid, but the burst and the setups are insane. And currently, RMD is one of the strongest comps in the game, with a fairly easy playstyle and a fairly easy strategy in terms of pushing for high rating. This comp is insanely good and definitely makes Subtlety rogues shine the brightest they can ever be. So first of all, we gotta go over the basics. What is a Subtlety rogue? Subtlety rogue is not all about sustained damage. So if you think Subtlety rogue is about sustained damage, try to throw that information out of the window and not think about it too hard. Basically, the sustained damage tickles everybody. When we don't have cooldowns such Shadow Dance or Vanish available, we're not really hitting all that hard. We're basically tickling a target, but the lineups are amazing. It has strong burst and strong setup pressure, which it can do just about every 30 seconds, which is what I'm going to be covering in today's video. So let's get on to it. I'm going to talk about the beforehand, the preps, the setups, the lineups, the bursts, and how to execute them, and basically all the information you need to know in order to get yourself into some 3v3 arenas and play in the game. So let's get on to it. A lot of newer players will end up stumping on the fact that they will learn a couple different Subtlety rogue openers, but they won't know how each ability affects one another. They won't be able to take these abilities that take in a burst opener and separate them to be able to reconstruct them together to serve the purpose they need to maximize the amount of CC, maximize the amount of damage, and maximize the amount of utility needed for arenas. One of those examples is the use of premeditation for a newer player is most likely going to be done with pre-med slice and dice, and that is about this far as the end goes. But pre-med can be used in multiple different ways within arenas, so learning how to do that in this video will help you out a lot. Also, as a Subtlety rogue, prepare to be playing a support arena role rather than blatant damage roles. Most chances when you push an arena rating, if you are playing with a DPS or a DPS healer in 3v3s, you're most likely going to be playing with a mage. So a mage can deal a ton of damage, but the reason a rogue complements the mage is the rogue can enhance the damage the mage deals. As a Subtlety rogue, you still do deal burst damage, but if you think of yourself as a support role, you might be able to understand this video a little bit easier. Currently, Rogue Mage Druid is one of the strongest comps in the game, and the reason it's strong is because of the amount of cross CC you can get onto a target. Basically what you do is you use crowd control in order to make a 3v3 into a 3v1. Two of the targets, whether it be maybe a healer and a DPS, are crowd controlled for a long duration, while the third guy is getting bursted down, which forces trinkets and defensive cooldowns out of everybody in the team. So this is why this comp is so effective, and playing a support role as a rogue where you line up the damage is very crucial. So I think it's about the time to finally get into the meat of it, the execution, and exactly what are you supposed to be doing as a rogue within arenas. So the basic setup is you juggle two different abilities for burst. You have Shadow Dance burst, and then you have Vanish as a burst cooldown. But either one of them is used differently. You apply different abilities for different setups, for different lineups. So keeping a track of everything can be a bit ridiculous at first, but you should be able to get used to it after trying it out a couple times within arenas, and just with time and practice, you'll definitely get better at it. But before we talk about the burst, we gotta talk the in-between phases. In between the burst of Shadow Dance and Vanish, you should be trying to get a full slice and dice up, a full 5 combo point rupture on a target you're going to try to kill, a full 5 combo points to spare, and a full energy bar to go with it. You can also use Phantom Knives in between the setups in order to generate more combo points. In arenas, the minimum amount of combo points you can get with Phantom Knives is 3, since Phantom Knives generates a combo point for every target hit. So in an arena, if there's only 3 people playing with no pets or nothing, you can generate 3 combo points with a single use of 35 energy, which makes for an effective energy generation capability. It is technically possible to use and have a lineup every 30 seconds as a Subtlety rogue. You first start with an opener into Shadow Dance, then afterwards 30 seconds later into Vanish, 30 seconds later Shadow Dance, 30 seconds later another Vanish, since that'll be off of cooldown, 30 seconds afterwards Shadow Dance, then 30 seconds later, if it comes down to it, you can use Prep Vanish, and then afterwards you have another Shadow Dance, but usually most games and before that. The first lineup we're going to talk about is the Shadow Dance lineup. So after you get full slice and dice, full rupture onto a target with 5 combo points and a full energy bar, you want to first use the 5 combo points to off kidney a DPS or a healer, whoever you are in charge of crowd controlling. In most cases it'll be a DPS. Then use Shadow Dance, Cheap Shot, Pre-Med, and in most cases you will also generate 1 extra common point from Honor Among Thieves. Then use those 5 common points with Trinket Burst into a DFA. After that, go for Mark for Death, Eviscerate, then Cheap Shot the target you are attacking, Cheap Shot him again for 3 stuns DRs, and then if they are a caster, you can also corrode them to lock them down even more. Some of the tips: Kidney can be used before Shadow Dance, line up if you need to peel or stop damage prior. Shadow Dance lets you stun lock the target without the need of Kidney, so feel free to use it as you wish. The Vanish burst lineup requires you again to have full slice and dice, full rupture on the target you're trying to kill, 5 common points and a full energy bar. But for Vanish you will also need a Kidney because you can't double Cheap Shot a target. So the only thing you can do is Cheap Shot, burst, and then Kidney to keep them locked down. So this is how you normally burst with Vanish. You vanish straight into a Cheap Shot, straight into a DFA since you already have common points. When you vanish you also give yourself 50% extra damage since you do go into stealth for a short moment, and utilize that damage to Mark for Death, Eviscerate the target as soon as you land DFA. Pre-med into ambush real quickly right before Subterfuge falls and throw a Kidney into them, then continue to backstab the target until you're fully out of energy. Again, for this lineup you do require to have Kidney in order to be able to lock down the target after the initial Cheap Shot, so communicate with your druid and see if the druid maybe has a bash to start the other DPS off or the other healer off when you're looking for cross CC, since you're going to have to use all your CC and damage in order to help line up the setup. Some of the tips: Vanishing gives you more damage since you do get 50% damage while you go into stealth, so try to burst and deal as much damage out while that 50% damage buff is up. You will again need a Kidney for this lineup, so make sure whenever you're juggling Kidney between using it for your lineup or using it to off CC a target, make sure that Kidney is available when you're setting up the Vanish burst. The Kidney is on a 25-second cooldown, so you should be able to throw it in there for availability every 30 seconds whenever you need a Vanish. The ability of Blind works in a weird way that doesn't really account for these lineups, but Blind can be used in multiple ways for RMDs. You can use Blind to stop coolies such as Dark Soul from Warlocks or Incarnation from Feral Druids. Basically, as long as the DPS doesn't have a trinket, you can stop their massive burst from ever really reaching full extent and bursting your team down. Another way of using Blind is to use it on a healer during one of your Shadow Dance or Vanish lineups in order to force a trinket. Most healers are willing to trade a 2-minute cooldown Blind for a 2-minute cooldown trinket in order to make sure that they can heal their teammates consistently. This change of playstyle involves you changing your mentality when playing Rogue. Throw out the cookie cutter openers and cookie cutter bursts and start applying abilities separately to achieve the best results. Think of yourself as the one setting up the kills rather than executing them. Your DFAs and Eviscerates will still hit hard, but chances are your mage will hit even harder, as they should. So don't make it a DPS race in Arena, since this is all team effort rather than personal damage and personal performance. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video helps you guys out when pushing some arenas as a Subtlety rogue, be it in 2s and 3s. I hope you guys get the rating you want, I hope you guys get the titles that you want, and I wish you guys the best of luck. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. My name is Dalrin, and I'll see you guys in the next video.